This morning.
LT Hoplo.
She is in her element.
Did you totally track her?
So didn't say she doesn't look like anybody's ever known. And everything was cleaned up before her, and she is. She said her playing her videos last night this morning. This is terrible. Yes. I arranged it.
Ukulele.
Yes.
Ukulele.
Ukulele. I'm sorry, I pronounced it incorrect.
Mongauk Valley or something?
Yes, I am. I'm from the Catskills. That's how we say it in the Yiddish. In the Yiddish, we say
Yiddish dialect.
no, we say it ukulele. Ukulele.
Nordiso.
Yeah.
Good morning. Thank you. Welcome to the masterclass for the Repertoire Development for Teaching Professionals. My name is Twyla Robinson, and I coordinate that program. The reason for that program is we are in a complete renaissance of art song right now. And whenever you're head down in the studio teaching people, it can be a little difficult to keep up with just the waterfall of new stuff that is being composed. So coming here to listen to the fellows work through this repertoire is an invaluable opportunity to hear stuff that we haven't heard before, hear it be taught at an absolutely masterful level, and then we try to take it back to our studios to teach to our students. However, it's also useful to occasionally put ourselves where we put our students, because most of the time we are on that side of the table. And so standing up and remembering what it's like to put yourself under the microscope is very informative whenever you go back to your students and you try to remember, why are they so terrified? Well, you just had this experience back in May that reminded you why you were so terrified. And we also get to experience some of this repertoire for ourselves. So thank you for being here this morning. Welcome our teaching professionals of 2019.
Good morning. My name is Dan Hunter-Hawley. I teach at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley in Brownsville, the southern tip of Texas.
I'm Elena Cuccinelli. I teach at the University of North Texas in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
About 10 hours apart. We're going to perform Happiness by Robert Spillman. So early, it's still almost dark out. I'm near the window with coffee and the usual early morning stuff that passes for thought. When I see the boy and his friend walking up the road to deliver the newspaper, they wear caps and sweaters, and one boy has a bag over his shoulder. They are so happy, they aren't saying anything, these boys. I think that if they could, they would take each other's arm. It's early in the morning, and they are doing this thing together. They come on slowly, It comes on unexpectedly and goes beyond really any early morning talk about it.
Dan, what can you tell us about this song?
Well, I had the great opportunity to work with Bob Spillman, who's a fantastic collaborative pianist and opera coach and author of great work on German Lieder. And he had sent me a bunch of his songs, and this one really struck me as being special in its simplicity, but also having a lot of deeper meaning kind of right below the surface. And when we worked on it, he talked about this juxtaposition of kind of a Sondheim-like element in the 12/8 sections that are a little bit more casual, and then leading into more Brahms lyricism in the 4/4. And yes, I mean, that's...
And what do you know about the poet?
He's mainly, Raymond Carver is the poet. I know that he's one of Bob Spillman's favorite poets. He talked to me about that. He's primarily known as a short story author and poet. He was born in Oregon, I believe, and kind of stayed in the Pacific Northwest and mostly in California, although he taught at Syracuse University for a while. And came from a blue-collar background, and he kind of did not like being categorized as a minimalist, but his own personality and preference for the shorter forms of poetry and short story, he talked about being related to the realities of his life, which involved a lot of blue-collar work, and he just didn't have the time necessarily to write longer things, and so he enjoyed the aspect of a poem that you can sit down and read it in one quick sitting.
Terrific. I think you do, the two of you do everything well already. What I would ask for you, Dan, is to just exaggerate two things. One is word stress and the other is direction.
Okay.
When you get to the 4/4, we've had a number of discussions this week about meter and how it affects what we do. So much of the song is in 12/8 and some of it is in 4/4. And we've been talking this week about how meter can affect the way we feel about the music and about a text. So I would just ask you, of course, in both the 12/8 and the 4/4, to sing, legato, 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 especially in the 4/4, because it has more outpouring of line and length of line in that case. And let's experiment with adjusting the tempo slightly slower for this hall.
Okay.
There are tempos that work in smaller, drier rooms, and sometimes we have to adjust that when we get to a larger space. Now, this hall can gobble up consonants. So, there's the tempo at which we can play and sing, and there's the tempo at which a hall can accept the delivery of what we're doing. Just try it a little bit slower. So early, it's almost a dee-dum this way. Would you try it?
Absolutely. So early, it's still almost dark out.
Wonderful. Now, when you say this first line, would you?
So early, it's still almost dark out.
Terrific. So where do you stress? Where do you hear him stress? Listen to him. He's going to tell us the right thing. Tell us.
Still? I did still on that time.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you sing it, your still and your all are almost the same dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So remember that in English, so stressed syllables are louder than not stressed syllables. You know that. And also you know that stressed syllables are longer than not stressed syllables, right? So early, Mr. Spillman has done the work for us, right? By making longer than li. Now, in the next chance when he hasn't done the work for us. It's still almost dark, so we have to fix him. I'm joking. We have to sing the English, which he would have expected. Say that, it's still almost dark in rhythm with the stress.
So early, it's still almost dark out.
Right.
It's still
almost dark.
Yeah.
It's
still almost dark.
So the triplet will not in actuality be exactly even, because English is not exactly even. One more time.
So early, it's still almost dark out.
Good, super, wonderful. Now you have to still sing all, although it's less important. That's the balance. You can do it.
All right. So early, it's still almost dark out.
That's better.
I'm near the window with coffee and the usual early morning stuff that passes for
Keep
thought.
going. 4/4 coming. Super legato.
When I see the boy and his friend walking up the road to deliver the
That's
newspaper.
right. Legato and direction are wonderful. I'm going to say a really picky thing. When you say deliver, you get a little scoop from below with the L.
Okay.
To deliver. I would ask you to remove that for now.
Sure.
And only put it, did you know you were doing that?
Probably not.
Okay. So I would ask you to remove it for now and put it back when you know that you want that you know.
Okay.
Okay? When I see, can we start there? That was terrific in the 12 bass, much clearer.
Thanks. When I see the boy and his friend walking up the road to deliver the newspaper.
Good, super. That's really wonderful. The only other thing that I would ask you to apply those things to the rest of the song, the 12/8 business, the stress, the not stress, the legato, the line, the direction. The only thing that I would ask you beyond that is when you get to the peak of, for a minute, death and ambition, even love doesn't enter into it. You make a decrescendo at doesn't enter into it. You have such a spectacular E flat. That peak, that sung note was spectacular. I want to hear it longer. And in the piano part, Mr. Spillman doesn't write a decrescendo until into it.
Right.
Could you let that love soar over longer? Can we start Professor Cuccinelli's scale up to such beauty?
Such beauty that for a minute death and ambition, even love doesn't enter into it.
Yeah, super. That's goosebumpy time. That's goosebumpy time. That's terrific. How does that feel to you?
Better.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It has a
doesn't
longer
feel like I'm
peak.
backing off.
Yeah?
Really.
Can you just repeat what you just said? It
It doesn't feel like I'm holding back
It doesn't feel like
for
you're
the
holding
last
back.
half of the phrase. Yeah.
Great. Now, for this, we've gotten to the part that I wanted to work on.
Perfect.
So, would you mind singing this again and going through to happiness?
Mm-hmm. Such beauty that for a minute death and ambition, even love doesn't enter into it. Happiness, it comes on unexpectedly.
Okay. Now, there's always going. I think you're wonderful.
Uh-oh, she's getting
I'm
up.
getting up.
Uh-oh.
I love when you tell me what you're thinking about when you're preparing to sing happiness.
Well, one of my habits is that I always want to sing softer than is sometimes possible, and so I
Okay.
have trouble on that because it's so tempting to try and float that, and it's not always possible.
Oh,
So-
you very nearly made it.
Yes, she helped me yesterday with her phrase. So I'm trying to think of some release into it, is really what I'm thinking about.
Okay. Why don't we think about not losing the energy you've created in the previous line? So what happens is that you finish that last line, it's so beautiful, and it was so gorgeous how you finished it. And then you let yourself down.
Mm-hmm.
You have to bridge that gap with energy so that happiness comes out of something. It has to be as a result, right? So the actual word and phrase comes out of a result of the poetry. It's inevitable, right? See, this is, it's leading toward that. So if you let yourself down and then reset your button, it won't have the spin you want it to have.
Right.
So you have to stay in that place. It's just an octave. It's only that big, right? But we make octaves this big. They're not. You look at them on the page and they're like that, right? So we have to think about that spin. May we go from doesn't enter into it?
Doesn't enter into it.
Now stay there.
Happiness.
Yes, it's beautiful. Did you feel easier?
Yes.
You can't let down. The other trick you can do, if you're ever feeling like it might not work, you know, you have to trick your brain. So you do something physical to cue it. And what I always suggest is that people take a step forward. Happiness. Because by doing that, you're activating the diaphragm, right? So you're flexing a muscle which flexes a muscle, right? So it automatically will help you and give you the power that you need.
Okay.
And it also tells your brain, go forward, you know? Because the first thing we want to do when we want to sing softly is we think that singing softly means bringing it closer to you, right? Bringing it closer, pulling back has nothing to do with it. It's the exact opposite, right? Would you mind trying it with a step forward?
Doesn't enter into it. Happiness.
How'd that feel?
Good.
It was even
Yeah.
softer.
Yeah. I felt like I scooped into it a little bit, but
You
it's
did.
yeah, it's better.
You know what?
It was beautiful.
It was a beautiful scoop. If I was you, I'd keep it. There are places that works. It works. It's a beautiful expression. Scooping is okay when it's used as a color. It's okay. There are places to do it. That's a place to do it. You know what I mean? But the thing about making jumps like that, making colors, is that when we have an issue, we have to look at what comes before. That's going to be the tell. Whatever comes before that is going to be the solution. It will be the problem, and it will be the solution, right? That's all you had to do. Now I would ask you one other thing. You come from the school of look above, right? I would beg you to take the risk to look at your audience when you're singing. It feels horrible. When you first do it, it feels horrible. It feels incredibly naked and very vulnerable. But you know what? Vulnerable is what we want as performers. And when you give us the opportunity to look into your eyes, we see your point of view. And then we have our point of view. So would you mind going from, let's see, would you mind singing the happiness again? If we go back to, how about it's early in the morning and they're doing this thing together. and take the risk of checking in with your audience.
It's early in the morning, and they are doing this thing together. They come on slowly, the sky is taking on light, though the moon still hangs pale over the water. Such beauty that for a minute death and ambition, even love doesn't enter into it.
Stay with them. Don't leave.
Happiness, it comes on unexpectedly and goes beyond really any early morning talk about it.
Yeah. No. How do you feel checking in with your audience?
Not as awkward as I expected.
Yes.
I think one of the challenges that I'll work on is that I tend to try and sing like to one focus point
Yeah.
and switch, and so
Yeah.
then it feels a little bit like I'm maybe scanning too much, and so I have to get a little bit more into just staying in with the audience rather than feeling like I have to scan the audience.
I have to tell you that I personally scan the audience through an entire recital. I will look everywhere. And there are places where I choose specific people, specific places. I'll tell a story, but finding a point on the wall and focusing on it is passé. It's the way we used to be, and I understand that. And there are still people who talk about doing that. But the thing is that don't you find that it's a kind of interesting effect when you look out at your audience and they're actually reacting to you? It changes the way you sing. It changes, and I'll tell you something, it is the #1 aid to diction. If you are looking at people and they understand you and you get that they understand you, you will work 10 times as hard to be understood. But the point on the wall is like the point on the floor. It doesn't offer you anything. And there'll be people who say, okay, well, I'm making a picture. I'm looking at a picture. Well, I've done that. You know, I used to do that at the end of Ellis Island Vignettes, the piece that Alan wrote for me. And there's this wonderful song where this girl goes and she sees her mother for the first time in a very long time. And she asks her mother offers her cookies and says, if you ever want any cookies, you just go get them and you eat as many as you want. And in the middle of the night, she wakes up wanting cookies. And you see her sitting in her kitchen, her mother's kitchen, looking at the curtains and eating cookies, and she's in heaven. And it's wonderful, and her mother catches her, and she's so embarrassed because she has these cookies in her lap, but she was so hungry for cookies. Oh my gosh, the cookies! It's so human and so beautiful, and I used to create a whole story, and I'd see the curtains, and I'd see the mother, and it was very nice. But I noticed that when I stopped telling the story in the air, and I started telling the story here, that the reaction of the audience was markedly different. It was so clear, it was palpable, that they were in it. They were in it. They were remembering having cookies with mommy. And the tears just flow. And we all cry together. And then it becomes cathartic. So as an artist, I think it's incumbent upon us to create that catharsis for them. And you just did that so beautifully. So congratulations. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Judith May, and we have a slight change of program order to facilitate our overall storytelling. So I'm going second. Elvia and I will be performing a work by Edwin Norwood as a setting of an Emily Dickinson poem entitled, I Heard a Fly Buzz When I Died. And Mr. Penhorwood for years taught at the Jacobs School of Music at Indiana University. His wife is a marvelous soprano, actually the teacher of our wonderful Twyla, who I am blessed to have been gifted access to this song because I love it so very much. And Twyla, I cannot remember his wife's name, Costanza Cupro, who Norwood followed her around Europe during her marvelous career and composed away. And that's it.
That's it. Again.
Okay, 1 second. Of course.
I love that poem. It's so wonderful. Would you recite it for us,
Yes.
please?
In a moment.
Yes, okay.
Just put this here.
You do it.
I heard a fly buzz when I died. The stillness in the room was like the stillness in the air between the heaves of storm. The eyes around had wrung them dry, and breaths were gathering firm for that last onset when the king be witnessed in the room. I willed my keepsakes. I signed away what portion of me be assignable. And then it was there, interposed a fly, with blue, uncertain, stumbling buzz between the light and me. And then the windows failed. And then I could not see to see.
Thank you so much, Judith. Thank you. I love this song. I didn't know it at all. And I think it's so beautiful. And I want you to take this comment from me, because we speak heart to heart, you. You have the loveliest Be Natural. It is so pretty. It's like where your soul resonates. And it's interesting because my teacher once was in a friend asked her if she wanted to go into a soundproof room. Completely soundproof. She said, okay, I'll go into that soundproof room. And she sat there in the room for like 10 minutes. And she came out. This was Pat Messlin, for those of you who know. And she came out and she said, I don't know what you're talking about. I heard of Be Natural the entire time. The entire time. And it was her body.
Oh my goodness.
It was her body that was resonating that Be Natural, and she heard it the whole time. And I suspect that's your tone too, my friend. There's something about this that hovers around that note and hugs it. And I think you are very successful because of that. It's really quite lovely. When you read the poem, you read it with such passion, and the only thing that I think is missing is some energy. Yeah? That I think, and that would help the way you sing the song. Because it needs to have, some places, it needs to have more forward motion. Yeah?
And is the tempo part of that, or
It's
just
not
my
about the
internal
tempo,
motion?
it's
Okay.
about the energy.
Okay.
It's about the energy. And it's about hearing ahead of where you are. You know?
I was being careful.
No, that's perfectly, you're in a master class.
I thought you were being important, which is great.
Exactly.
It's great.
Carefully important.
The way we hear English is by forward motion and by degree of stress, right? To put it in the most boring terms, those are the tools: forward motion and degree of stress. The magic is how we employ those. Could I just jump in? For
I
a
wish
second?
you would, please,
Right,
yes. Go
Look,
ahead.
you have your score there, right?
Yeah.
So the marking from Mr. Pinnerwood is quasi-recitativo, and I think we need to really take him up on it.
So the way, let's look at this together. So the way he delivers the text is in packets of information.
Okay.
It's series of eighth note Christmas gifts, all bundled up. So say this first package of information, just speak it. As Judith, not as Emily.
I heard a fly buzz when I died.
Good, so that's one packet.
Okay.
The next packet is this bunch of little eighth notes.
The stillness in the room was like the stillness in the air.
Good. And then there's the next packet.
Excuse me. What's in the air? Between the heaves of storm.
Right. So we have how many packets? 1, 2, 3 packets. How marvelously trinititical or something. Right?
Yeah.
So then when you deliver it, so when we have this package of 3, often we move to the third one, right? Sometimes we move to the second one, but you get my drift, right? So I would ask you within each packet to really move, and then among the 3 packets to really move, building, sometimes with my students I use the term Lego blocks or Lego logs. You build this Lego, you put this Lego, you put this Lego, and then you build a house, then you build a point, then you build a saw, right? So I would ask you, Professor Puccinelli, at the opening, to move to the A more. So that you create this wave-like effect. Can we try that?
Yes. I thought this was a mark for people to stand.
No, it's so you don't kill when
Yes.
the fire.
It says automatic fire curtain, keep clear.
They're very polite here at City Pots. Okay, here we go.
I heard a fly buzz when I died.
Super. Now, tell them, are you thinking that this is sad?
I'm thinking I'm talking to my sister who died before me and telling her this story of wonder.
Beautiful. That's so personal.
But I'm not
That's so personal. Could you tell her with immense fascination?
Okay.
This just happened to me.
Okay.
I'm dead now, and this is what happened. Right? Right?
Yes.
Those of us that deal with, well, we all deal with death, but fresh deaths, or a fresh death in my own life made me think of that thin place between eternity and now, which of course Emily talks about all the time. So tell her with fascination, tell your sister, and move ahead.
Okay. I heard a fly buzz when I died.
Here's the second packet. Move.
The stillness in the room was like the stillness in the air between the heaves of storm.
That's terrific. That's exactly right. So you built each Lego log, and you built each Lego log in terms of direction. Would you do it again? And I'm not going to stand near you. I'm going to sit over here and wave my Judith pom-pom. Right. So I think one of the things that can help you with movement is to, yes, the poem is sad. Yes, the poem is pensive. Yes, there are words of stillness, but there are just as many words of upheaval. Buzz is a very active thing. So I would ask you to lean on those for now. Move too much, be too active, be too awe-filled and excited, then relax from that.
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay, yes. I heard a fly buzz when I died.
Take an active breath.
The stillness in the room was like the stillness in the air between the heaves of storm.
Good. Keep going. Keep the same idea.
The eyes around had wrung them dry, and breaths were gathering
Active breath.
for the last answers when the
Good. Terrific. Now let's talk about breathing, right? When we get nervous, our breath is not as lengthy or usable or things like that. So then make it work for you. I make music a lot with this lady. She has really great air most days. Occasionally she doesn't. One of the magical things about her, however, is
is that when she doesn't have air, she makes a wonderful choice to breathe more often and make it work. So we're gonna do an experiment. I want you to breathe, not where it is syntactically logical, but I want you to breathe in a storytelling way.
Okay.
I want you to breathe after onset, after be, and after witnessed. Okay?
Okay.
Go.
And I'm starting.
You're gonna speak.
Okay.
You're gonna speak.
The eyes around had wrung them dry.
Tell me about this word wrong. It's spelled R-U-N-G in this text. If I had been Ms. Dickinson, I would have spelled it W-R-U-N-G. Have you looked at the original?
I have, but I haven't noticed. I have seen it with a W in my mind.
Okay,
all the time.
so it's possible. I do this as a composer. Sometimes
Okay.
I will write the word in a mistaken spelling, or I'll write the wrong word. Schubert did it too, so I don't feel
Okay.
too bad. Right? So, if Penhor-Wood or Dickinson chose R-U-N-G on purpose, then you have to say it on purpose.
Okay.
To have rung of like a bell
Yeah.
is very different than to have rung our kitchen towel, right?
Okay.
So, but you look so that you know that you know. Go.
Okay.
Speak.
The eyes around had wrung them dry, and breaths were gathering firm for that last onset when the king be...
Breathe.
Okay. When the king...
No, would the king be
Okay.
witnessed?
Okay. For that... When the king be witnessed in the room.
Good, super. So syntactically, that's not ideal, but in storytelling, it can be ideal. When the king be, oh my God, witnessed, did you hear what I said? In the room. So those breaths can say, oh my God, and did you hear what I said? And since it's a tessitura and a vowel, which are tricky, to take more breaths is good because it makes relax. And my point is, you can make it work in the
Yes,
storytelling.
yes.
Would you show us that?
Okay.
The eyes around have rung them dry.
The eyes around had wrung them dry, and breaths were gathering firm for that last onset when the king witnessed in the
Good. So there are more breaths and you made it work. Syntactically, not ideal. Storytelling, absolutely ideal.
Okay.
You get it?
Yeah, I
Do you
do
get that?
I do get it.
So you can always use that. I learned that from this lady to my
Yeah.
right. Let's go on with I Willed My Keepsakes. Now we have a whole bunch of packets that Mr. Penhor-Wood is moving ahead. So you have to be the one to make it work, right? The motivation must come from you. It cannot come from Dr. Puccinelli because she has nothing moving and you have everything moving. So the responsibility and the great privilege is yours. Make it so.
I willed my keepsakes, signed away what portion of me be assignable.
That's terrific. Start moving all right away. Move earlier than he says.
Okay.
Signed away what portion of me be assignable. That is such a darling phrase.
Yeah.
It is such a brain titillating phrase. Yeah? One more time.
I willed my keepsakes, signed
Go.
away what portion of me be assignable, and then it was the
Good, super. It's very good. So it's a high note on that F sharp. Very ungrateful to sing in the passaggio. If it helps you, again, in your storytelling, they're interposed a fly. Right? That could work in your storytelling. It may be harder in the passaggio to breathe. It may be easier to breathe. I don't know how that is for you. But try a breath for this moment after interposed and take a real wow breath.
Okay.
And then it was. Dickinson's comma is.
Yes.
With blue, uncertain stumbling bugs.
Okay. Okay.
That was terrific. That was terrific. Do it again.
And I barely heard the breath. That was fantastic.
Okay. Thank you. And then it was
Very good. So you got closer in the singing to the same timing that you had when you read it. And that's exactly what the composer says, quasi recitativo. So remember, this is true also of rubato. Recitativo both takes time and moves forward. So a lot of us need to experience the move forward part more than the take time part. All right? Windows means what in this case?
The mechanism of seeing out.
Good. It's literally the eyes. And then the windows failed. Right?
Right.
The ability to see. So I was curious about the fact that you almost said the word curtains. Right? So I think that I suspect if you think enough about the eyes being the windows to the soul, that your memory will always go to windows rather than curtains. So that's why I asked you, and I'm glad that you said exactly what you said. You had already thought it out. But that's the reason.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Judy. Thank you for being
Thank
here.
My name is Monica Murray, and I teach at Concordia University in St. Paul, Minnesota. Elodie and I will be performing With Thee Conversing, which is the second piece of a set of 3 titled Grace and Stir by David Evan Thomas.
And borne on that enchanted string,
What a great song. Can you tell us anything about it?
Yes, the poetry is by A.D. Hope, who is an Australian composer and was known as the greatest 20th century, 18th century composer of Australia. And David Evan Thomas studied with Samuel Adler and Dominic Argento and selected these poems. The other poems talk about things that move us, and that's where the idea of grace and stir come, things that move us and make us feel alive.
Tell us where the text comes from. It's a paraphrase of what?
It's a paraphrase of Shakespeare, I believe. Milton, sorry.
Right,
yes.
Milton's Paradise Lost. So we're dealing already with very highfalutin language,
Yes.
which is not always easy to understand, right?
Right.
And then we're dealing with a wonderful paraphrase of it, which is also not easy to understand. So tell us who is speaking to whom in this text.
I think of her let's say Eve speaking to Adam and saying, being with you feels so natural that time just passes and I can speak to you without being guarded and share all my thoughts with you. And you are my everything that I live in.
Wonderful. That's really beautifully said. So then I would lead you the same way that we just worked with Judith, which is to use there are little bitty packets, M-I-N-I packets of direction, and there are M-A-N-Y, mini packets and many packets of direction, right?
Yes.
So the way he sets is, can you speak the text in rhythm in the first phrase?
Yeah. I think I can. Talking with you, I'm going to remember the house.
Each day would
Thank
seem.
you. Talking with you each day would seem to pass unnoticed into night.
So where's the point of direction?
Noticed and night?
Right, so he writes a crescendo to night. So in his love letter to you, he says, hey Monica, here's the P, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then everything magnetically has to go there. Do it one more time.
Talking with you each day would seem to pass unnoticed into night.
Terrific, good. Now we're going to intone like a wonderful priest or like a wonderful cantor. On the long notes, we're going to keep the valve resonating. Can we say it together?
Mm-hmm. Talking with you each day would seem to pass unnoticed into night.
Unnoticed into night. Again, do it again.
Talking with you each day would seem to pass unnoticed into night.
Right, now sing it just that way.
Talking with you each day would seem to pass unnoticed into night.
Already better. If phonate's better and intonation is meaning and not phonation is none, is no meaning, is not meaning. So that's really terrific. When you read after you, you must release or try releasing the vowel forward. Talking to you the day.
Okay.
Try it.
Talking with you each day would seem to pass unnoticed into night.
Good, super. So then you're going to take that same delivery of moving forward packets, the FedEx of language, and deliver, forward. Don't leave anybody's package on the front step. It'll be snagged by porch pirates, right? May I talk about one other issue?
Yes.
Okay. So then the alignment of the voice and piano is just so sophisticated. And I don't know, because the piano has this kind of John Adams quality about it. So, one of the things that you can do one of the things that you can do in rehearsing with the artist at the piano is to dance with them
in pulse, so that the pulse comes from your body and not from here. All right? So, where's the beginning again? Thank you. So I would start with her, it's in 2, and I would look at her and I would do a hula with her. I'll show you what I mean. I would be standing where you are, but I would turn and face her and I would do this. Talking with you, right? So you're just going to hula. Why do I suggest this? Why would I suggest this as a mode of rehearsal? Who feels the pulse?
I need to.
Right! Right, so then the pulse is generated in that moment by you. All right, now, she of course generates the pulse when it starts, but can you try that?
Sure.
Do you know the music well enough to know where that is? So, hula.
Okay.
We know you can do it because we saw you in the show the other day.
Oh, that's right! Miss Hula, Miss Stage Animal Hula Lady. All right, so hula with Dr. Cuccinelli. To really be the hula lady, right? I can't tell where your hula is.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have interposed myself over there, but let's hula together.
Okay.
So, we're gonna face.
We were actually talking about this too and wondering, it's in 2/4, but feeling like a big 1.
Okay, that's great. Well, then that's hula in 1, of course.
Okay.
Face, turn. Your hula has to be very specific.
Okay.
It cannot be sort of this way. It has to be boom, here's the beat, boom, here's the beat, boom, here's the beat. All right? So you get it?
Yeah.
You need to start that way as a technique so that the pulse comes from you.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Then it's like training wheels. You let go of doing the hula physically, and it's internalized in your body. So many teachers would say to me, well, you have to feel the pulse. You must feel the pulse. And they were right. But nobody gave me a step of how to do that I can remember. Or they would say, listen, you have to listen. You're not listening. And I would go, okay, I'm going to really listen now. And I didn't know what the H to listen for. So as a teacher, I try to help people in that bridge that probably my teachers did tell me, but I just didn't get. Right? So feel the pulse, and that's how you feel the pulse.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll give one piece of advice I think that might help you feel the pulse, and that is to fill the pulse. Right? Good, right? Yeah. That was good. Yeah. Good.
I've known you for 1,000,000 years, and I
never heard that before. You have to fill the pulse. There are times, there are a lot of marked times where you don't fill the word. Here in the very first, when you speak the word day, you say day. When you sing, you say day. I don't hear it. And every time you don't fill the word and fill the pulse, it gets shorter and shorter and shorter. And that's why it's harder for you to maintain that pulse, because your words are not full. And that's because the vowel is not full. Right? So let's go off of this line and look at a different line. Let's look at, and born on that enchanted stream, time but its pulse of dark and light. So we have something that's long and something that's short. Okay? So let's start with that. May we hear that?
And born on that enchanted stream, time but its pulse of dark and light.
Perfect. Now, on was short, stream was short, it was short, and of dark and was not long enough. You have this. I love your voice, Monica, because it is so unbelievably you. I hear it's wonderful. You have this. When you speak, you have this wonderful sing-songy quality to your speaking that is so lovely. It makes me, well, last night when we were all sitting around and talking, I love listening to you talk.
Oh,
because it's such a, you need to bring that to your singing. So let's have, can you say that phrase for me? Intone it like you do now.
And born on that enchanted stream, time but its pulse of dark and light.
Beautifully done. That's beautiful.
Now don't shortchange us when you sing it.
Okay.
Okay?
And born on that enchanted stream, time but its pulse of dark and light.
Already better. You hear the difference? It's
Yep.
marked difference.
Yep.
Now, you took us halfway there. Take us halfway again, and we're going to get closer. When you sing stream, you're being such a good musician. You are really paying attention. Put the M on the rest.
Okay.
Right? And born on the, and make sure that when we see music like this, when we feel music like this, when you are feeling big pulses like you were, you have to use a wider brush. Right? Your brush is too small. We want this. We get the job done so much faster with bigger brushes, don't we? You know? Much bigger. Wax on, wax off. Right? Right? That's what we need here.
Okay. And born on that enchanted.
I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I think it'd be a lot easier if let's hear the measure before.
And born on that enchanted stream, time but its pulse.
Try it again. It's so much better. You got me halfway to halfway. All right. And born on that enchanted stream, right? Sing the stream. Let's have the reverberation on stream. I want to hear at least 10.
And born on that enchanted stream, time but
We
its
are so close, dude. I want you to be a bad musician. Be a bad musician. Sing it too long.
Okay.
Because you're not, I promise you, Monica, you are not going to wait too long.
Okay.
It's not going to happen.
And born on that enchanted stream, time but its pulse of dark and light. And even missing heart, I feel the heart's restless
So much better. You have to fill the space.
Okay.
And really think about this, what Alan was saying. It is, you know, we don't, it's such a precarious place to be. Because when we teach, and when we sing, we tell ourselves, don't physicalize everything. Don't physicalize everything. But the thing is that we have to feel something in our bodies. Your body is the instrument. So you have to take the risk to move it, to move. I gotta look at the music. Hold on a minute. Look. Let's do this again. Go exactly from where we started before and keep going. And really, as you're singing, feel those big pulses of one, okay? And fill it.
And born on that enchanted stream, time but its pulse of dark and light. And even missing apart, I feel the heart's restless stream. A conversation fills the heart, our voices answer.
The sound is clearer, and I feel the pulse. You know what I mean? The body, earlier when we were talking with Dan about taking the step forward, and how I said that the body cues the brain, it's the same thing here. And that last held note was clearer than the first time, because you're engaging the whole body. You have to sing with the full instrument, right? And how does it feel?
Better, and actually doing the moving kind of shows me where I'm a little confused about the pulse as well.
Yes.
I need to clarify something.
Yes.
So yeah.
We need to, we've been talking all week about the tools that we have in performance, the tools we have as musicians, and this is one of them. We have to allow our bodies to give our voices cues sometimes. And not only that, but it helps create better ensemble when you're collaborating. Elvia will never have to wonder, does she know where the pulse is? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you'll be feeling it together. It's wonderful. And it creates a positive energy. It's just wonderful. I used to, when I would do scales here, the first time I started learning to do scales, my teacher would have me pretend that I was skating, you know? So I would fill the space, constantly fill the space. And when I sang, it energized my singing, you know? I had a colleague here who used to sing scales and run laps at the same time. We have to connect to the full body. It gives us the best information. That was wonderful work, Monica. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Amy Conchola. I have an independent studio in Garland, Texas. And today, Elvia and I will be performing Bring Me the Sunset with text by Emily Dickinson and music by Scott Gindel.
Recano
cannot let this moment pass without congratulating Megan and Scott Gendel, who got married 3 days ago. And he's on his honeymoon, and he wrote today that he's devastated because he's on a plane and he can't live stream Amy singing the song. So I hope somebody sends this to Scott. Congratulations, Scott and Megan. Anyway, what a terrific song. Can you tell us how you came to it?
Yes, I'll try to give you the Reader's Digest version.
Okay.
A few years ago, before I had aged out of the Fellows program, I wanted to audition to be a fellow. And I said, I don't know a lot of living American composers. So I asked a mentor, Claudia Waite, if she had someone she suggested. And she suggested 2 people, and Scott was the one who wrote back. So, and I asked him. I said, I'm a soprano, and I gave him the sheet, or sort of like, here's my voice, what do you think would be good? And he suggested The Forgotten Light, which is the full cycle of this. And this is the one that I picked. And the great thing about, as you mentioned this week, living composers, you can ask them, what was your inspiration for writing this? And I like the idea. He said he was trying to capture her insatiable curiosity, Dickinson's insatiable curiosity. And the piece is fun, and it makes you stop and appreciate the little things of life that you don't necessarily think about. And it encapsulates the entire life cycle. She ends up dealing with death, but then it's not sad at the end. It's sort of, there's a pomposity, and then, and unfortunately for the rest, I mean, it's great, people give you a fanfare, but then life still goes on with the rest. So that's how I got to it.
Passing pomposity.
Yes.
It's the best. The best. I would suggest that we do the same kind of thing we just did with your colleague, in that we find the pulse. So would you
through skating or hula-ing?
Through skating or hula-ing, however it's going to be, we need to find the pulse.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
This is a waltz.
Okay.
And he's done a lot of things to, make it not so obvious. So I would ask the 2 of you to make it more obvious.
Yes.
The waltz aspect.
Yeah, I think, Dr. Puccinelli, I'm just listening to this and I'm thinking, I gave a master class a few days ago, which was a metacognitive master class in which I told everybody what my thought process was and why I chose to say what I was going to say. I never did that before. And it was revelatory, and it makes me a better teacher for this week because I did that. Can I try something? You could do this, but it's just easier if I try it. So, if the downbeat is really the thing, Sati gymnopédie, right? So one of the fellows has gymnopédie in one of your songs. Who is it? What's the song?
St. Paul and all that.
Yeah, so right in the middle there, he says Sati gymnopédie. And I'm wondering, so that's my thought process. I'm wondering if this is a gymnopédie. So I would try the second beat softer. That's my thought process. Second beat. So could we...
Second beat softer had been my intention, so I'm glad to know that did not read at all.
It didn't read over there. And when he gets noisier in the second beat, I still would approach it. Well, maybe. I would use that as the MO.
Well, it's a very interesting piece structurally. I mean,
Okay,
there's
tell
so much
us.
going on. What it resembles to me actually a lot, Shore on the Shining Night.
Ah.
In that we have this ABA structure where there's a canon between the voice and the piano, one leading first and then the other responding to the B section that does not have that.
You're so smart.
I learned from the best. I was nothing when I came
So-
here.
Dr. Puccinelli studied with me, and when she came to me, she was nothing,
That's true.
and I made her everything she is today. Okay, so that is so not true. She taught me.
He's told me for many years, so I'm not sure.
It's our joke. It's our joke. So she taught me even in those days, and she still continues to teach me. When I have a question, the person that I will ask most often is Dr. Puccinelli. I'll just ask her. So tell us more.
So the first two pages have that canon. The voice leads on the first page, it's 2 voices. On the second page, it's 3 voices.
Ah.
So we've got the melody that Amy sings. She's the third one to get it on the second page. The B section, your third page, she has the melody, and I've just got the chords similar to the second page of Shore on the Shining Night. And then after the short minor section, the final page, it's inverted, and Amy leads, and I follow. We're in 2 voices there. And what's interesting too is there's also not a harmony that goes through. So it's in 3/4, but it's also in
Passacaglia.
3.
Got it.
I don't know, 3 dotted halves. So
Great.
that 3 measures equals 1 measure.
Wow,
So what I
okay.
was trying to do and not achieving, I think, was to find also the larger harmonic structure. But maybe that it's moving so slowly that I can't achieve that because there's so much going on contrapuntally.
Maybe. No, I'm just thinking.
I may be just stuck in the forest.
No, I think maybe. So I think
Yeah.
there's so much information that we at the piano are obligated to boil it down. I would, if it is a passacaglia, I would treat it going to the highest note. Right? And that's exactly where he brings in the... Would you just try that as an idea? So that's your shtick that you're going to try. Now, always making the second beat less is not going to work, I think. If, for instance, this high note, that's just a good old Italian high note, right?
It's all overlaid.
So I would just go there. So that as an MO, second beat is always less until it's not, for a reason, right?
But that can be that second beat in the melodic voice and not in the harmonic support voice.
Right. Yes. Perfectly said. Perfectly said. So then, if you're skating hula-ing, could you face her, and can you either skate or hula hoop or do a thing? So waltz with her. There's the best idea. Mm-hmm. Dr. Puccinelli a heart attack. Don't. We need her. Okay, so that's a way to approach this song. You're waltzing, and Dr. Puccinelli is doing some gymnopédie waltz kind of thing. All right, super. And also, okay. No, will you talk now?
Yes.
What does wife mean?
Willow twigs. Willow twigs.
Wow! An Alban house?
It's a grave. A grave?
What does the word the Alban mean?
It's related to St. Alban, who's the first British martyr, who is the patron saint of converts, refugees, and torture victims.
I told you I always ask Dr. Puccinelli.
So you'll see a lot of, we tried, but we just kept getting references for Alban houses affiliated with Episcopal churches, so we're extrapolating from St. Alban patronage and the fact that there's Alban houses at some sort of safe house, hostel, refugee place, which is the euphemism for the grave, or the casket.
That is
itself.
so cool. I'm going to tell a little story. So I was back in my studio. I have a studio class, and Dr. Puccinelli this was a few years ago, 3-4 years ago, came to visit. She was there for a couple of days, and she visited my studio class. Now, all of my KCA majors, I put them through paces in terms of language study. They ought to know a million different languages, and I test them, and I ask them, and I make their lives a living hell of knowing language. So we're in a class, and it was on Latin, I believe. And Dr. Puccinelli was visiting my class, and there was something I didn't know about the Latin. So I asked Dr. Puccinelli, what is that? And she gave the quick and fulsome answer. And my students' jaws just absolutely dropped. And they talked about it for about a year and a half. That Dr. Smith didn't know something, and that Dr. Puccinelli did. So,
well, if that's the case, then I need to credit my parents and growing up in their church choir and learning all of that beautiful Latin music. So.
Catholic. All right.
So, one of the things that's difficult about the waltz is that it is the most, it seems like it's going to be a very easy thing, right? 1, 2, have any of you ever waltzed before? Anybody here ever waltzed? Yeah? Yes? Is it easy to waltz? No. You know why it's not easy? You always end up feeling like you shortchanged a beat, and then you end up rushing ahead to get there. It's really weird. It's very awkward. And for me, when I'm waltzing, I always feel like the music's too fast. It just feels too fast. And it's so interesting here that Mr. Gandel says gracefully, always pushing forward. Because I always feel like I need to do that in the waltz. That I need to push forward, because otherwise I'm going to get behind the beat. And that's what's happening here, Amy. Also, you're not filling the space. You have to fill it. You have the most glorious voice. It is so big. And I think sometimes you hold back. Just sing.
Okay.
Okay? Just sing. Now, keeping that in mind, it does say piano at the beginning, but we're going to ignore. Shh. We're going to ignore the love letter for a moment, so that we can work through singing. Yeah, I'm sorry, Ellen. It's gonna happen. Ready?
I just was noticing, because the pushing forward, and you said that, and you reminded us, every phrase at the beginning begins on a pickup note.
It begins on a pickup. Yep, and it gets shorter as you go along. It gets shorter as you go along. Okay? Just vowels. Beautiful. Now I want you to connect them. Connect them. I'm hearing notes. I'm hearing individual notes. I want to hear a whole line. You're going on the back half of the pulse, and you end up beating in the wrong place. So let's go from the very beginning, and you and I are we're gonna feel the pulse together. Okay? One. Fill the space. See, look what you're doing. You're going. Sorry, I'm so sorry, Alfie. You're going. When you move, you're going. One. No, fill the space. One. Come on. There you go. Fill it. Fill it to your tips, fingertips. place, Sylvia? Yep. One more time from the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. You see where you're swinging and I'm swinging? You're getting ahead. Okay? You're getting ahead. So you're not filling the space. Okay?
Okay.
All right? And now we're going to use the words. Okay? Same thing. 1, 2, 1. 1, 2. Bring me the sunset in a car. 1, 2.
Fix it right now. He screamed with love.
You got him. You got him. There you go. Oh, you got green highlighter. Woo! Yeah. May we go from the measure of reckon. All right. And 1. So annoying, isn't it?
But you know what? This happens in piano practice too. The same kind of thing. We do similar things, and at first it can seem really, I'm going to use the word difficult. We're thinking so many different things, but that's only in the initial phase. Then it gets easier and easier and easier.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Same place.
2, 3.
Try it again. We're going to do a breath pickup to that measure. You get shorter and shorter, and it just keeps compressing and compressing, right?
Okay.
That's what you need to work on.
Fill
the space, right? Let's go to the end.
Also, I was going to say, before I forget, we've also talked in this week about how songs can fall into acts. Mm-hmm. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, and Monica, I was going to say the same thing to you. That song, have you thought about the acts in that one? Terrific, terrific. It helps us organize. In the old typewriter days, you would reach up and you would push the thing, and you would send the carriage to the left and start typing again, and it would move, and you would do that. By doing these acts kind of things, there was a physical motion in old typewriters that doesn't happen on computers. We push the return button, which is great. But lifting your arm and doing that, a fresh line, right? And so doing acts does the same thing. You finish one act and you start another, and it has a different kind of energy. It also clears the brain from the old act. It moves the furniture out, moves the new furniture in. You have a blank piece of paper. Both Stephanie and I talked about how we love a fresh sheet of clean paper. We love to feel it, we love to smell it, we love to write on it. So this is when we have new acts. The reason I'm being so silly about it is that it creates all that potential. So I'm glad that each of you has thought of it. Where are we starting?
Let's go with tempo 1, measure 103. Because guess what, we've heard this before. Right? Don't lose the pulse, Amy. Give a good pick up to 1 with your breath.
Ooh, let me out some gay day with implements to fly away. Passing pomposity.
See, I think this is a great gift that Mr. Gendel has given us at the end, that he gives you the opportunity to set it, right? Now it's on you. So you need to take that breath, you need to show Elvia where you are, and you need to breathe in. You breathe in the tempo, you breathe in the swing. Right? And as you sing it, think about the tone just spinning forward like this. See, sometimes when we see music that is so, where the range is so wide, we think about going up and going down, going up and going down. There is no up and down. There's only going forward, going forward, going forward. That's it.
Including in retards. Retards are also going forward.
Same thing. Whether you're singing, whether you're not singing, doesn't matter. When you take a breath, when you release, it all just goes like this. So, if you fill the space with that voice from beginning to end, and then you fill the rests with that brain, right? Rests are just brain space. It's time for thought. That's all it is. It's forward-moving thought. Until the next time your voice starts moving forward, right? So let's do that, let's try that again. And just think one continual line forward.
Ooh, let me out some gay day.
That was beautiful. That was so much better. Now, let's not let Gala get away. Snag that sucker and bring it back.
Bring it forward.
Yes, thank you.
Ooh, let me out some gay day with implements to fly away. Passing pomposity.
Amy, when you think in the rhythm, you will sing in the rhythm. You have to train your body and your brain to think in the rhythm. And that takes time. That's not something that just happens, you know. It doesn't. It takes time. I remember there was a dance move when I was in college. I could never get, and I'm not going to show you what it is now. That's good gravy. You don't want to see that. But back in the day, and I remember I was in the middle of a party, and I was standing around, you know, holding my drink, and all of a sudden I did it. As I was standing, I was like, and I looked at a friend. I said, "Did I just do what I think I did?" He said, "Yeah, you did." I wasn't even thinking about it. It just happened. Because I practiced it for so long that my body went, oh, there it is. And that's the way this has to be. You have to continually practice that. Continually be in, always find the pulse. We've talked about this all week long. It's really, it always happens at the end of a Fall Island week, there's always one thing that sort of just has gelled all week, and it's always a different thing. And for us this week, it's been pulse. It's been rhythm, it's been dance. And I think that bring that to the song, just keep doing that. And think forward. When you do that, when you lead forward, the other thing that happened when you were doing that was your diction got 10 times better. Because you were leading with the language. Leading. And we're talking about dance. How interesting. So don't be a passive partner. Be the leader with
Okay.
your music. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mark Webster. Dr. Puccinelli and I this morning will be performing a selection entitled Turn, Turn by Libby Larsen, which is different than what you see printed in your program today. This is a text originally composed by Bethany Ringdahl, but adapted for the purposes of this composition by Miss Larsen in 2011.
Love
So, you tell us why you chose this.
I came upon the poem actually because a student of mine was given an assignment to perform it and really just found the composition itself attractive and the poem quite meaningful. I think it really speaks to the degree to which we all find ourselves in constant pursuit of love and meaning and light from external sources, when just the decision to acknowledge the light and love within is often the thing really we should be in pursuit of. And that while we ourselves are finite, that light of self-love and self-compassion can be eternal.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So our students out of the audience, did anybody recognize a theme or a tune in that song? That's absolutely right. Turning, turning, till you come around right. Yes? Beautiful. Well heard. And you heard a pulse in there too? Yes? Just beautiful. What I find fascinating about this is that I am always complaining that singers have a tendency to sing a general mezzo forte all the time. And it's so funny. There's one dynamic marking in the entire piece, and it's mezzo forte. That's it. And what is so beautiful, Mark, is that you brought so much in terms of color and dynamic that was not included in the score, which I think is what Ms. Larson is interested in. She's interested in that. And the ending was just so beautiful. It was so nuanced. And it was, you went someplace with this. You took us on a journey. And I think what's important is that we recognize that in music, there are so many layers of journey. There's a textual layer. There is a musical layer. There is an attitudinal layer. Attitudinal? Sounds adenoidal to me. It's an attitudinal layer. There's a heart layer. And when they're all firing at the same time, that's when something really comes to life. And that absolutely happened here. It's just absolutely beautiful. I have so little to say, except that I see you stuck a little bit physically. That I'm at the risk of saying it's a bass thing.
It's a me thing too, like kind of regardless of my voice type, but yeah.
Do you feel physically stuck?
At times, for sure, yeah.
Like you don't know what to do with your hands?
Yeah.
You get the claw.
Okay.
Normally the claw looks like this. It actually does. It looks like, but there is a tension in your hands and your arms that I think you should lose, because I think it inhibits flow. You know, have any of you ever heard about feng shui? You know what feng shui is? You know what feng shui is? the whole idea of energy flow and not blocking that flow. I was just staying in an apartment in Dallas, Texas for 5.5 weeks. And it was a sort of a loft kind of deal. And in the middle of the loft was this giant cement pillar. And I swear to you, it blocked the energy of the room. And I felt terrible the entire time we were in that apartment. And so did my husband. It was, even the dogs were skittish. There was just something about it that was blocked. And I think that when we get into, what I love that you have, I haven't talked much about physicality this week, but I love that you have this general 3/4 turn, which is really nice, but you got very much into this. And I would love to see you lose some of that, you know, so that we feel more of the freedom that is in this music, the flow, you know what I mean? And that rather than worrying about what you do with your hands or how, release all of that, just release it and let it out. Redirect it. I guess that's what, redirect your attention someplace else. You know? Like out here somewhere. Away from them. Don't direct attention. That would be terrible. May we start from the beginning? No, we could just 2 bars would be great. This is gilding the lily, man, because it's beautiful. Let's be honest. But there's something, when you lose tension in your body, people pay attention to the voice. They pay attention to the eyes. When there's tension in the body, the audience goes straight to it.
Yeah, I felt that too, that my breath felt a little more flexible.
Of course. If we focus, I mean, you sing this song beautifully. If we focus on them, then the body reacts. It reacts. And it starts to release. And then all that we're doing is creating a circuit. Right? So I'm sure that Twyla has done this to you at some point this week. But she's walked up to me many, many times this week, and she's just touched me. And she says, connect the circuit. Connect the circuit. Right? That's what these are. You look at them and it creates, see your colleagues out there going like this? You create a circuit. And when you do that, it dissipates everything that is not music, everything that is not communication. Then it becomes pure communication. Then this doesn't matter. You say your breath feels better? That's why. Right?
Yes.
It's beautiful. My lone colleague?
Yes, I want to be led. I want a sermon. You know Poltergeist, right? The famous line from Zelda where she says, "Don't go to the light, Carol Ann." I want you to go to the light, and I want you to take me there. I want you to take all of us there. You've seen Olin Glitch probably, right?
Someday.
Right. Okay, so you and I are going to stroll. And we're going to go that way. And we're going to start on our right foot. And we're going to step every dotted quarter this way, all right? And you're going to sing. Okay. And we're going to arrive, wherever you say we're going to arrive, at the word light. Then we're going to come back, or we could just turn around and come this way. And we're going to arrive at the piano at the word right. Then we're going to take an extremely long walk to bend. Can we walk together? We're going to start on our right foot, 2 bars. We're going to start on the downbeat that can sing. Right foot first. We're going to arrive at Southern Baptist, so I'm projecting this sermon idea on top of it, right? So now, without walking, lead us there. This song is so beautifully composed. So we have three melodies actually. Get to be simple, and what is turn, turn?
It's the 60s rock band, The Birds.
So can you show us in the piano where that comes? Great, super. And Eternal Ruler of the Ceaseless Round is the third melody. Where does that come? Unbelievable. Okay, super. So it's so cleverly constructed. One of the things that I find about it is that it's hypnotic, and that is its nature, and we cannot deny that. What I would love in the hypnosis, and there's a certain sameness of texture, right? Do you agree? So in my thought, you really need to tell us where we're going with this, right? So I'm just going to say one more thing, because it just occurred to me. It's possible that the point of this piece is simply to be hypnotic. It's possible. But let's just do a thought experiment and a performance experiment where you lead us like crazy to, it's the last word often, I think. Right? Can you try that?
Yeah.
And Elvia, I think you can. Can I play for one instant? Yeah, she even says subito mezzo piano. So if you're thinking less there, what octave is that? Is that the right octave?
Mm-hmm.
I would just exaggerate that, both of you. Can we do that as a performance experiment?
Yeah.
But still, as a performance practice, I think if you lead that, there's a revelation at the end of every line that I sense. So, if it were me, I would go to the light, Carol Ann, in Poltergeist. I would go right to that light and lead us there. You are our spokesperson. Just to point out to you,
this hymn, to that point, this eternal ruler of the ceaseless round,
Yes.
is really very much about the circling, the hypnotic circling, the continuous circling of the planets, actually.
Sure.
So I think that.
And yes, and the Shakers.
they were absolutely
They were
right.
turners.
61.
Spun around.
61, you have mislearned the rhythm. We turn until the turning comes. So you start your hemiola or whatever that is, that rhythmic thingy too early. Don't start the rhythmic thingy too early. So that's a suggestion that I have to you. And also, the sound of your voice is so wonderful. When you could you sing this one note up to this one note? You find where it is. Can we start it? It's hard to say. Top of 4, then turn to love again. So what I find such space in your high D. I find that you sing it extremely well. I wish you would have the same space somehow in candle. In candle, right.
Okay.
Then turn to love again, and in the loving fire. Sing it and then one a high note. Love again too. You sing it too short.
Great.
Yeah?
Then turn to love again, and in the loving find.
Either you're wrong or I'm wrong. I've been known to be wrong once earlier this week. To love again and in the love. Yeah?
Then turn to love again and in the loving find.
So now the rhythm is right. Because you were singing it shorter before, your body doesn't. You didn't let your body know yet. So now your body knows. So your body's going to join you in the whole length of that note. Always we sing past where the high note is.
Yeah.
Love again. I heard a wonderful coach a few years ago say, when you're practicing, fall off the end of the note. So you go la, la, right. Then you extend that love again, but your body has learned to cascade down from the note rather than love. Oh my God, I have to get down again, right?
Okay.
You should do the same thing that you do, the brilliant thing you do at the end of loving. You went loving find. Loving find. You absolutely utilize consonant legato. So use it here. Love
again. Okay.
So connect them to the
Okay.
Then turn to love again, and in the loving find that love is light, a candle lit within. Now listen to the last word. And where we are is where we always been. So the arrival, the revelation is not the last word. I just think that this is terrific. Thank you. I didn't know this song before. It's a magnificent song. And the two of you do it magnificently. I already said it. Thank you.
Just one last thought. When I say when I say there's no dynamic markings, they're actually, upon second looking, there are dynamic markings. No, not for the piano. For you. They're in the repeated text. The first whole line is a crescendo. Because she says we turn. As it gets longer, it gets louder. And so the emphasis, it's not really about sound, it's about intensity of thought. So the thought gets more and more and more intense. So you say amen. Right. Amen. Right. Amen! Yeah?
The term for it is snowballing.
That's exactly it.
And because the snowball gets larger the more you roll it, and language does that. Repetitive music, repetitive words need to do that generally. I'll just say one more thing because it comes up so often in my own references as teaching, is Martin Luther's speech, I Have a Dream, right? So you listen to his language. It's singing, right? So, for instance, when I'm teaching Singstimme, Sprechgesang, I tell people to listen to the Martin Luther King speech because it is a kind of oratory that we rarely hear anymore. I grew up in South Texas, and I grew up with Southern Baptist preachers who intoned, the Lord told me to do it. That has pitch, right? And it sounds like singing. So when we're doing Schoenberg, I tell people, go listen to Martin Luther King, because that is what Schoenberg was copying. The intensity of oratory, which is largely lost today. All right? The other thing has to do, listen to how he builds his syntax. I think some people call it rhetoric. You build the structure of what you're saying. And it's so perfect in that speech. If you haven't heard it in a while, go listen to it again and just listen to how he builds to a point. Then resets, then builds to a point, and uses time, right? So that I feel, again, I'm projecting my own Southern Baptist upbringing. I freely admit, but I think we need that here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So excited for this class all week. And as last night approached, I got even more and more excited. And I lay my curly golden locks on my pillow last night, and I thought, I can't wait to wake up and have this class. And I have to say that as wonderful as I thought it was going to be, it was 10 times even more wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Does anybody have any questions about anything you heard? Anything? No? Yes? No? 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 Final call. Thank you so much for this wonderful class, but also for participating so beautifully throughout the entire week. It's just been a joy having you here. It has been a joy having you here. We have one more big event. 7:30 tonight. Be there or be square. We're going to hear some fantastic music.
A special thank you to
Dr.
Pulcinelli. She was nothing when she came to me.
And also a very great thanks to dear Twyla Robinson.
Yes!